at Kezar to the glory days at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback Podcast time. I'm Anthony Robertson, and here with me is the Horse, Alex Horse. What's up, Horsty?
What's going on, everybody? Ready for another great episode.
And Alex Asania. How's it going, Alex?
Man, it's going great. Excited to be here. Let's get this thing going.
All right, let's get it on with the hitters. So, Horst, are Jimmie Ward and Jaquiski Tartt Pro Bowl caliber players?
I think that Jaquiski Tartt, if he wasn't injured as much as he has been, would be a Pro Bowl caliber player. I think for his position in the box safety, he does a great job. He's aggressive against the run. He's good enough in coverage. He makes a lot of tackles, and he's got a nose for the ball. Jimmie Ward, I think, is a good, solid free safety. I don't know that he's a Pro Bowl player, but I think he's definitely a top level starting free safety. He's a good player to have on your team. But out of those two, I would say that Tartt is the guy that has the better chance of becoming a Pro Bowl caliber player. I don't know if that's going to happen. Injuries have really slowed his chances for that down. He's got to play at least 14, 15 games, honestly, to have a chance at those type of honors. Jimmie Ward could surprise me. He was a lot better than I expected last year. I was one of those people that I'll admit I was on the get rid of Jimmie Ward train. I was not impressed by him his first few years. Saleh and that defense have changed him. They've made him into a much better player. So maybe we only saw the start of the potential of Jimmie Ward last year. But to me, I don't think he's really a Pro Bowl level player. I think he's just a solid starter.
Yeah, I'm kind of in that camp. I believe that I was like you. I was solely in the it's time for Ward to go camp. I remember booing him.
Boo this man!
At games I went to, like the Ravens game, back when I think it was 2016, 2015, when Cap was still quarterbacking. Booing Jimmie Ward heavy as he got beat by an old Mike Wallace in the back of the end zone. I was just like, yeah, it's time to go. Like, I'm done. I was done with him then. That was only like his second year in the league. So to see his turnaround is fantastic. I'm glad that I'm wrong. I'm glad that he is not only fits in the scheme, but is reliable and solid. They don't have the obscene stats like guys like Harrison Smith has from the Vikings, like that translates into data. You can watch Harrison Smith on the field and be like, man, he's great. And then you look at the stats and it's like, holy crap, he's even better than you think he is. Malcolm Jenkins is another guy in the NFC that they would have to contend with, who, again, passes defense from 2014. He has 58 since 2014. 58 passes defense and 11 picks during that time. And those guys just don't have those numbers. And I don't think if it's not translating to data, it's just going to be hard to make the actual argument for it. Whether or not it's eye test wise on the field, they look like they check the boxes, they look like they fit the bill. And to me, Tartt looks like he fits the bill, but the stats aren't there. And Ward, to me, isn't quite there yet, but he's getting better. The good news is both of them still have about 4 or 5 more years of prime football left in them, barring injury. Like, if they can avoid the injury bug, they probably got 4 to 5 more years max where they're going to play at a very high level and continue to play at a high level. So they can still get there.
Yeah, these guys have a lot of similarities. They're always injured. I think that's one of the real problems is they just don't play enough. And then they also don't cause a lot of turnovers. Neither one of them caused turnovers last year. And that's something that you need from your secondary and your safeties, and that's how you get into the Pro Bowl. So I see those as similarities. The one big difference between the two is Jimmie Ward's growth was kind of stunted by how he was used, playing a lot of corner, especially the way when Trent Baalke first drafted him. They brought him in, they played him in that corner, they played him in the slot. He played some safety, but he never really got into a spot and just stayed there so he could get comfortable. I think that last year you finally saw that comfort level. I know he said he's training different, so he stayed healthier. With Jaquiski Tartt, he's just got to stay healthy. He's a good player. I don't know if he's quite Pro Bowl. He's on the fringe. I think he could be. I think if he came out and played a 16-game season and caused turnovers and made sure tackles, that sure, he could be a Pro Bowl player. I don't see any reason why he can't, especially when you play on the best defense in the NFL. You usually get recognition right away. So, yeah, I think both guys have the opportunity to do so. They have different ways that they've gotten to this point and different avenues to get, I think, where they're going to go in the future. But this is going to be an interesting season because I think a lot of what happens this year is going to determine who is back and who's not and what kind of guys are going to start. It's 49ers Cutback Podcast time. And that brings us kind of to the next topic. Is Tarvarius Moore ready to take another step forward and get on the field more in dime and 3 deep safety looks, Alex?
I would argue, yeah. I would say that that's the case. I think we have to find a way to get the best talent on the field and play to our strengths. Lynch and Kyle both have talked about how much they like his speed, his size, the athleticism he brings to the table. They're trying to give him every opportunity he can to show that he can be the future at the position. And you know, giving him a chance to show out. The big thing is that he Ward's got 3 years left on his deal, I think.
He signed a new 3-year deal.
It's a new 3-year deal. So that means at the end of his contract, he's going to be 32. Right. Moore's 23. He's the young guy here. But the question is he the guy going forward?
Right.
And like we said, the big problem has been for Tartt, and Jimmie Ward isn't playing 16 games every season. Is he worth the contract that you signed him to if Ward's playing up to par? Probably not, and it probably leads you, like you just said, to us making the decision to pull the trigger. And with all the salary cap stuff changing and all the new things happening in the NFL because of COVID, this is the year where you have to seriously consider what guys can you roll the ball with and take chances on going forward, and what guys can you part ways from. That Jimmie Ward contract, it's a nice chunk of money. And if that money's not on the books, that's more money for guys coming up here in the future in the next couple of years that we need to sign to contracts. But that's only if Tarvarius Moore can handle it, if he's ready. And Shanahan has said this time and time again. If the D-line's playing at elite level, our secondary just needs to be good. So can Tarvarius Moore be good? And more importantly, can Tarvarius Moore be healthy? Because if he can be good and healthy, even right now at 23, even if he's not full-blown Jimmie Ward, he doesn't have to be full-blown Jimmie Ward this year. Can he be closer to full-blown Jimmie Ward next year, and can he be on the field for more games?
Tarvarius Moore is a guy that fits the bill as far as he passes the eye test. He 6'2", 200 pounds. He ran a 4.32 at his pro day. They picked him in the 3rd round out of Southern Miss. He even had what should have been the game-sealing interception in the Super Bowl. Made a big play there. He's a guy that you definitely saw around the football a lot last season, and I think he's only going to get better. I definitely think that he'll be on the field more this year than he was last year. I think they go to those 3 deep looks that he's a guy that they're going to put back there. He was around, like I said, he was around the ball. He tackles well. He's fast. He's big. He's athletic. And I think he's one of those guys that's only going to get better as his career goes on.
He's going to play a lot more this year. DJ Reed injury, then being picked up by Seattle, definitely caused, Tarvarius Moore's snaps to go up. Also, I think that they want to really take a hard look at him this year with Jaquiski Tartt's contract coming up, possibly maybe Jimmie Ward sliding over to strong safety, and then Tarvarius Moore being the free safety. He's more athletic, he's faster, Ward's more physical. He can definitely play in the box and play the Jaquiski Tartt role. So that might be a move they're looking to make. I think they have to make some decisions there. I think they will possibly look to go young at that free safety spot. And the question will it be Ward or will it be Tartt that plays the strong safety? Or even in the back of your mind, will it be someone like a Richard Sherman, possibly filling one of those safety spots? So it brings up a lot of questions on exactly what they're going to do. But I think they need to look at Tarvarius Moore this year. So I think he's going to see a lot of extra snaps and a lot of extra plays. And I think that he showed in the Super Bowl that he can play at a high level and definitely change the way that they can play the defense Jimmie Ward playing in the slot and him playing, the free safety role. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they do with Moore and with Ward and with Tartt going forward. I think they're a three-headed monster. I think it'll be really good for this year, and then the future is up in the air big time. I'm sure money has a lot to do with it, but also you don't want to lose a talent like Tarvarius Moore. He's getting close to where you need to start extending him, so you definitely got to see what he's got and make a decision. Another young guy on the team is Marcell Harris. Horse, will Marcell Harris establish himself as a potential replacement for Tartt?
Marcell Harris is a guy, he was picked in the 6th round in 2018. This is going to be his 3rd year on the team. He was probably pressed into starting duty a little before he was ready his rookie year when Tartt went down. Started 5 games that year. He started 4 this past year. So he's got 9 starts. He's played in pretty much every game. He's a really good special teams guy. My thing with Marcell Harris is he's a liability in coverage. He's good in the box. He can tackle. He had that great play where he ripped the ball from Lamar Jackson in the Ravens game. But I think Marcell Harris is a backup. I think he's a backup and special teams guy, and a solid backup at that. But I think if Marcell Harris is one of your starting safety's a little bit of a weak position. I mean it with all due respect.
What did you say? What was that?
Oh, I said it with all due respect.
That doesn't mean you get to say whatever you want to say to me.
Sure as heck does.
No, it doesn't
it's
mean
in the
that.
Geneva Convention. Look it up.
Hey.
I like him, and I love it when a guy goes, from 6th round pick to an important piece of the roster. And like I said, he's done a solid job when he comes in. But for me, the coverage just isn't there with him. And I don't know that he has the ability to get to the spot where he's a top half NFL starter in the defensive backfield.
Yeah, Saleh said it himself about him. He doesn't lack speed. No, he doesn't lack athleticism, or really basically any physical trait on the field. He just needs to get comfortable and be 100% sure of himself within the scheme and with what he's seeing from the offense. And like you just said, his big weakness is the passing game. Part of that, I think, is that translation from college to pro football and how fast everything happens and how quick you have to adapt. And so Saleh seems to have a lot of faith that the only thing that's lacking right now is the recognition. The ability to look at what's going on the field and be like, I got this. I know what this means. I know what route combinations most likely are coming. We're running this scheme, which means I'm looking for these types of routes based on this look. It's going to take time to get there. This is going to be year 3. I think this is the year, though, that he needs to start showing that he can handle some of that responsibility. They can start recognizing some of that stuff on the fly, pre-snap, and get comfortable in the scheme and his rotation and where he's supposed to be in the defense and what he's supposed to be covering and responsible for in the pass game. His snap count percentage went up 20% last season from his first year. He put up better numbers in less games this past season than he did this previous year. His passer rating dropped 20 points, so he was giving up 138 passer rating, which is dang good for a quarterback if you throw it completely on the guy. 138. It was all the way down to 118 this year. So it's improving. Maybe it's not improving as much as we'd like, but it is getting there. I just think that year 3 is going to be year 3 for him is his year. I think this season with Marcell Harris and with Moore, that this is their breakout year. This is the future of the 49ers secondary and the safety position is going to be decided this year. Whether we're sticking with Tartt and Ward for the short term, or whether or not we're ready to pull the trigger on these young guys, or if we're drafting a position of need next year in the draft.
I think the DJ Reed injury is going to be the reason that Marcell Harris makes the team. I think that if DJ Reed wouldn't have got hurt, I honestly don't think Marcell Harris would have made the team. He didn't make it last year, and then they ended up having to bring him up. So I don't think that he would have made it, and I think a lot of it has to do with he's just not a starting caliber player. I think he's a good player, and he can play serviceable plays and take minutes, and if someone's hurt, he can play, and he's a good special teams guy. But he's a backup. He's a very valuable backup, but he's just not an elite player in this league, and you're looking for elite players. And I think that you can find somebody that can do what he can do at a higher level in the draft or in free agency. And I think you already have guys on the team, like I said, with Jimmie Ward Tarvarius Moore, and even possibly Richard Sherman that can do a lot better than what he can do. So, no, I don't think he's going to be the eventual replacement for Jaquiski Tartt. I would much rather keep Jaquiski Tartt and lose something financially than to promote this guy because I just don't see it. Alex, which young safety can make an impact in 2020?
I think it's Moore. I think Moore is the one that's going to be utilized a little bit more. He was the guy who got he got a few more chances and shots in big games this year. Super Bowl, we talked about. They trusted him on a couple different opportunities late in game when you knew Kansas City was going to be throwing the football to kind of go in there, and he made a big play. He just seems to be the guy that the uptick in snap count is not there. Like statistically, if you look at the stats, it's not there. But he seems to be the guy that they have faith in. I think they believe in Marcell Harris's upside and what he could become, but it's quite obvious that Moore is ready. Like he's ready to get his shot, like a chance for you to actually critically evaluate him and give him a good run and see if he can be a guy at the future position, whether or not you're playing him at free safety or strong safety. So I'm leaning more towards Moore. I could see them early in the season giving Marcell Harris some more opportunities because it's going to be early in the year, and I feel like we got it's fairly easy. It's a little bit easier front loaded the first part of the schedule for us. We got some easier opponents and some easier matchups, and so you might not be as worried about receivers or quarterbacks, and so you're willing to give them a shot in those games. But if there's anyone that's going to be playing a big role, I think later in the season it's going to be Moore.
The young safety I like is Jared Maiden. He's an undrafted guy from Alabama. Daniel Jeremiah had him as his 114th overall ranked player coming into the draft, which should equal a low third to high fourth round pick. He did not test extremely well as far as speed and agility at the combine, or he did a little better at his pro day, but he's one of those guys that you turn on the film and he's a gamer. He made a lot of plays at Alabama. He was a 2-year starter. If you're a 2-year starter in Alabama's defense, you're probably been coached really well and probably can play some football. There's not many guys on that team that can't. His senior year, he had 60 tackles and 4 interceptions and a couple forced fumbles, which is something the Niners' defensive backfield lacks, is guys that can cause turnovers. So that's something I like about him. He can play special teams. He can do all that kind of stuff. I think that he's the type of guy that could swoop in and take a job from Marcell Harris because he's got more upside to him than Marcell Harris might. Now, the lack of preseason game and stuff can hurt a guy like that that's coming in undrafted, but I think he's got a lot of potential. Mel Kiper had him as his best undrafted player, and he also had him as a 4th to 5th round pick.
Who the heck is Mel Kiper anyways?
I don't know it's Mel Kiper. My neighbor has more credentials than Mel Kiper, and my neighbor's supposed to.
But I think the guy can be a playmaker. I watched some video of him after they signed him. I think he's got a lot of talent.
Yeah, he's a good player. He can play in the slot. He can play, a couple different roles, coming from that system in Alabama. But I think it's Tarvarius Moore because, I think the Jimmie Ward signing was interesting because you would think that Tarvarius Moore would have stepped up. Even Jimmie Ward said Tarvarius Moore is ready to step into that role, and yet they still signed Jimmie Ward. So it makes me question, is Tarvarius Moore ready, or is this the big ploy for next year for Jimmie Ward to go to strong safety and Tarvarius Moore to take over as free safety? I think it is that. I think Jimmie Ward is going to take over as strong safety next year. They'll save the money not having to re-sign Jaquiski Tartt, and they will move on that way with Tarvarius Moore as the free safety. So his play is going to be very pivotal this year, and I think that with Jimmie Ward having to play some in the slot because of the DJ Reed injury, that Tarvarius Moore is going to be more important than he's ever been. So this is the year that he has to make the biggest impact. And if he doesn't make a big impact, then the 49ers are going to struggle because Jaquiski Tartt is not the best in coverage, and Jimmie Ward can kind of struggle at times. So Tarvarius Moore on 3rd and long is going to be so important. He's got to cover that, that deep third and make up all the ground. He's got the speed to do it, and he's got the ability. Can he do it? It's one of those things is you can have all the physical traits in the world, but can you make your body do it? And if he can take care of the mental issues, then, yeah, he could be a big-time player. He was so highly touted coming out of college.
And I can tell you, Anthony, I've watched 62 hours of film on this Tarvarius Moore guy, and I'm going to tell you, the 49ers are going to have the best safeties ever.
Well, I think the safeties are often kind of slept on, right? I think the 49ers, corners and safeties, this is secondary. They look at them, and nobody's high on them. Nobody talks good about them. It's all about the defensive line. And now the hot boys.
The only reason Richard Sherman's any good is because he has a pass rush. I mean, to an extent, yes, but he's been great forever.
Yeah. I mean,
I hate to say that because he was great in a jersey for a coach who we all don't like very much. But, I mean, the facts remain the facts. He's still elite. He's still great.
When you come at him with a sorry receiver like Crabtree, that's the result you're going to get.
Back when I hated him.
Yeah.
But I think that the safeties, need to step up their game this year. I think that was the real weakness besides the right corner spot. I think the safeties were a weakness. Jimmie Ward played really well, but Tartt missing so much. Going back and watching that week 17 game where they're playing in Seattle and there's no Tartt. Again, you forget, but there's no Tartt. And it's like, how many games was there no Tartt? And, that's really what probably was the difference between that game being so close. You're asking a lot out of these guys. You had no Tartt, you had no Quan. And, I think if we could see those two play 16 games this year, we have a possibility of having a really good record. Make sure to click the subscribe button. Hit the notification bell so you'll be notified every time we post a video. Like this video, comment on this video, share this video.
Behind the Whistle.
It's time to go behind the whistle with safeties coach Daniel Bullocks.
Daniel Bullocks is a guy who was a big-time player in college, an all-conference player at Nebraska, was a second-round pick by the Lions. Had a short career in the NFL, 4 to 5 years. I know injuries played a part in that. He's a younger guy for a coach in the NFL. He's only 37, but he's started his coaching career in 2012 at Northern Iowa. He went from there. He coached safeties there. From there, he went and coached corners at Eastern Michigan. So that's good. It shows that he's got some versatility, that he can coach both spots. 2016, he was an assistant on the Jaguars. And then 2017, when Shanahan got hired, he brought Bullocks on as an assistant defensive backs coach. He was in that spot for 2 years, and starting last year, he was moved to the safeties coach. And I think we saw a lot better play out of Ward and Tartt, I think. And the fact that when one of those guys would go down, although you could see it a little bit, the defense didn't just totally fall apart on the back end when, Tartt would miss a couple games and Marcell Harris would play, or Jimmie Ward might miss some time and Tarvarius Moore would play. So that's all signs of good coaching, that he had the backups ready. And I believe Marcell Harris, they signed off the street when
the literal street? Why was he on the street?
Oh, dang.
They signed him off the free agent list when Tartt got hurt, and he plugged him in and he played all right. So, I mean...
Wait a minute. Is the free agent list the street?
Yeah.
This whole time.
My God.
So, I mean, those are all signs. Bullocks is a young coach, but he's clearly an ascending young coach in the league, and looks like another solid hire by Shanahan.
4 seasons in the NFL, like you had mentioned. The big thing for me is he himself was voted by the Lions as their most improved player in 2008 when he was a part of the organization. And you can see just the amount of development. For me, the change in Ward over a season, for me, shows that he understands something about improvement and developing weaknesses and identifying them and being able to fix and correct them, which is huge for a guy like Ward because he was able to max out, maybe not max out his potential, but allow him to tap into that potential and play at a higher level. Tartt, hopefully, you can do the same thing for. And then the young guys, all the young safeties that we talked about today, all are younger guys who have a lot of potential, who need time and need that sort of exposure and whatever it is, whatever juju or juice he's got going for him that is helping with the safety group. If that continues, it's just a positive thing. And for a coaching staff, having coaches on staff who can develop your young talent while also taking guys who are veterans in the league, a guy like Jimmie Ward, who Horst and I both said we both thought he was a bust and we're pretty much done with him. The fact that he can turn it around and have the season that he just had and be the starting safety on the Super Bowl, the team that goes to the Super Bowl, if you had asked me that at the end of Harbaugh's last year, I would have said there's no way. There's no way in heck that this dude, Jimmie Ward, is going to be anywhere near a team that gets back to another Super Bowl, because if this dude's starting, we can't stop a paper bag blowing down the field on a non-breezy day. Like, we had no chance whatsoever with that dude, and he has completely turned it around. And Coach Daniel Bullocks is the key fact for that for me. He's the thing that changed. He was the changing force and the driving force behind the Safeties elevating their game and are hopefully going to be rising up the ranks in terms of respect category and getting that respect and someone putting some respect on that safety group.
Something that stuck out to me was that in 2008 he won the Chuck Hughes Most Improved Player Award. So it shows that he knows how to work and put in a lot of effort to get better. So I think that's what he can instill in his players, and I think that's what we're seeing from these young guys as they improve, is that you find a guy that maybe wasn't the most talented, but he figured out ways to get better and to make an NFL career out of it. He didn't play long, but he's definitely shown that he can adjust and that football is a passion of his moving on into the coaching ranks. And he's made some good decisions. I mean, I think that the improvement of Tarvarius Moore is very evident, and I think that all goes down, with him. He's really the one that made this happen. So, yeah, he's a good coach. I like the what he's done so far. I do want to take kind of reserve, full breakdown of him or thoughts on him until I see him do it for more years, because he's only done it for 1 year as a safeties coach, and I want to see the improvement they have in year 2, especially with some of the scheme changing possibly a little bit and them doing a little bit more things at the safety position with coverages and that kind of thing. And also, I'm curious to see if what they do with Ward and Tarvarius Moore in different sets. And I think that once he has another year under his belt, I think we'll really have an idea of exactly how good of a coach he is. But so far, I like what I see. I like that he's moving up. No shock that when Saleh came over from Jacksonville that he brought this guy with him as fast as he's moved up. So, yeah, good coach. Another guy that's interesting that Shanahan's working with, and you always see connections with either Chris Kasarik or Robert Saleh or Kyle Shanahan at some point. They've all coached with him, and that's always the coach. You don't see guys usually that they haven't had some sort of contact with in the past. All right, guys, chalk another one up.
Make sure to tune in to the next 49ers Cutback Podcast. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Anchor, Google Pods, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Don't forget to click the follow button so you won't miss an episode. You can always follow us on Twitter at 49ers Cutback. We will be back soon with another episode. Stay safe, and remember, the right way is always the 49ers way.